Hey everybody, and welcome back. Today we're taking a look at an interesting little shooter known as Steam Hearts for the Sega Saturn, or as I like to call it, Perverted Twinbee, for reasons I'll explain later. This game was developed by Giga and published by TGL, and it was originally released on the NEC PC 9801, and was later also ported to the PC Engine CD. It's set on the planet Westina, which is broken up into 5 different regions, each with its own military force, and each one ruled by a different female empress type. One day, they all go crazy and start tearing the planet apart, and the 2 playable characters discover that it's because they're being affected by a virus from space, and only the male lead has the cure, whatever that might be. I say Steam Hearts is like Twinbee because you have 2 playable characters, male and female, each piloting a blue or red ship, and your 2 basic modes of attack are your main gun that destroys enemies in front of you, and bombs that destroys enemies below you, but that's really where the similarities end. Steam Hearts gives you a life bar, which is very much appreciated because it can be a pretty tough shooter, almost bullet hell-like in spots. And there are a ton of different weapon power-ups to collect. You can actually hold 3 at a time, and while you don't have any super bombs per se, you can use the weapon crash ability, which is just as good, and sacrifices one of your weapon power-ups, but the game is so generous with them that it doesn't really matter. You can also make use of a quick boost button, which can launch you in any direction, which is great for getting yourself out of tight situations. Steam Hearts is a really fast-paced and challenging shooter, but it's also really fun. It features 8 stages, each of which ends with an epic boss battle against some giant ship or mech of some type, most of which are piloted by Westina's 5 empresses. Now, for the other interesting aspect of this game. After you complete the first stage, you're treated to a cutscene. And this cutscene gets weird. Like, really weird. And that's when you realize that this isn't just another shooter, it's also semi-pornographic. Remember that cure I was talking about? Well, it's in the male protagonist's semen. That's right, he has to lay the pain away. Every time you defeat a boss, you're treated to one of these scenes. They're not terribly graphic though, and the women are all sans nipples. But it's an odd inclusion nonetheless, making this game the Cinemax of shoot-em-ups. That oddity aside though, this is a solid shooter, it's a lot of fun. It's just overshadowed by the fact that someone thought it would be made that much better by scenes of softcore pornography. The presentation in Steam Hearts is really good, and this is starting to creep me out a little bit. Typically, a game that goes with a sexual angle, you can pretty much always bet it's going to be total garbage in every way, but it's like this game was made as well as someone could make it, and before it went to publishing, someone tacked on the porno idea in an effort to sell more copies. The graphics are really nice, lots of color, lots of detail, many multiple layers, and good use of shadows in certain instances, and the boss designs look great too. My only complaint is the occasional slowdown and the cutscenes. They're actually the worst part of this game. If you have the patience to sit through them, they go on forever, and they're freaking boring. It seems like they take up just as much time as the gameplay. The sound design is also excellent. The soundtrack is pretty much all high-tempo techno music that matches the high-speed action really well. Even the sound effects and admittedly the voice work is really good, or at least the sound quality is. On the whole, Steam Hearts is a really well-made game with good graphics, good sound design, and great gameplay. It's way better than I thought it was going to be.
Calming Radio. Missile.
So this is a really good shooter. It's at least on par with something you'd get from Taito or early Cave maybe. And I can easily recommend it to shooter fans who might not have thought of trying this one before. Unfortunately, regardless of which system you're buying it for, it's a pretty damn pricey game, usually going for at least $200, which is insane. It's good, but it's definitely not that good. In this case, a ROM might be the way to go. If you're in the market for a fast-paced, challenging, and slightly naughty shooter, then check out Steam Hearts. It's awesome, and it's best played with the image slightly scrambled.